welcome to my Instagram show, The Third Phase. I'm Lori Carpenter, interior designer and founder of The Third Phase. And I go live every Tuesday at 12:30 Central Time right here. And I really get into deep conversations with inspiring guests about things that matter most in this season of our life. And we talk about everything that matters most, like our home, our health, and our wealth. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Life Ballet. Life Ballet has invented the most stunning grab bars for your home. Life Ballet believes that life is full of possibilities, and your home should too. That's why they designed these stunning grab bars for safety, style, and freedom at every stage of our lives. They have stunning finishes. They have tile-ready designs for custom inlay and straight and angled configurations, and many more coming up. If you want to find out more about your possibilities with Life Valet, check out lifevalet.com. And if you're 60 plus, you may be like me, dealing with many aspects of this third phase of our life. You may have a busy home that you want to look beautiful. You have children. You have grandchildren. You may be helping with aging parents, an aging loved one, all while juggling a full-time career. It is, let me tell you, challenging to say the least. But you know, together we can navigate this, and we can do it with purpose, grace, and joy. So grab your lunch and grab a friend, and let's dive in, because today's guest, have you ever wondered why you like something, why something appeals to you, but you really don't know why? Well, my guest today is Mike Peterson. Mike Peterson is founder of what is called the Science in Design. And so he's going to break this down for us. And I'm telling you, it is very, very exciting. And I think you're going to enjoy it. I see we got a lot joining us today. Welcome. Let me bring Mike on. Gosh, we've got several here today. Hello.
Hello, Lori. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
And I'm glad we're connected.
Finally connected here. Yeah, we tried to have a practice run, and somehow it didn't work. But
No.
I am so glad you're here. Mike, I met you, it's been a couple of years ago in New York when you were speaking to IDS.
Yes.
And I was blown away with the science behind this design. And but I do know you've had quite a career in the home furnishing industry, publisher and Luxe magazine in Florida. You were CEO of LaBarge Furnishings, and now you are the founder of Science in Design. How did this all come about?
Well, it's interesting. Very fortunate to have a pretty good career. It all started with my time spent at Hearst magazines. I ran House Beautiful and Country Living and Colonial Homes magazines for the Hearst family. And I kind of burned out of Madison Avenue after many years. And I was offered the position of CEO at LaBarge in Hollywood. And I took that, ran that for several years, bought my own furniture company in Pennsylvania called Madison Square Furniture, sold that off to Stickley after several years, and jumped back into the publishing business with Luxe. And
Wow.
it was interesting because it was in that experience that I was having lunch with an architect in Denver, Colorado. And I didn't realize at the time that it was going to change the arc of my career. The architect was Don Ruggles, and we were at Del Frisco's. It was December 15th, 2015. I remember the date vividly. And Don sat there starting to talk about how beauty improves health. And the more he talked, the more engaged I got, and the more I was realizing that there was a heck of an opportunity for the design industry. If beauty improves health, and it's now documented, and we know that designers create beauty,
Yes.
ergo, designers improve health. And so it kind of totally changed my life. And I decided a year later, after studying the subject, that I would essentially spend the rest of my career helping the design industry realize its role as in improving the health of the client. And I don't mean just like walking in a room and saying, oh, it's beautiful. I mean scientific studies that document our ability as an industry to improve health. And it's been very rewarding. The movement has really taken off.
Really? Well, what does this actually encompass?
Well, Science and Design is an educational and marketing platform that actually helps designers realize their role in improving health. It's essentially understanding the positive effects and benefits of beauty, nature, and fine design. The goal is to help them promote the fact that they are healing. In fact, science, when I talk to the neuroscientists and the doctors in medicine, as I do, they consider our design industry to be an alternative health resource. And
That's
that's,
fabulous.
it really is. It really is. And that's something that we need to start engaging with and being confident in. Now, to understand what science and design encompasses, we also need to understand a couple of important words. There's a big word called neuroaesthetics, and
Mm-hmm.
essentially the physiological and the brain, and aesthetics is essentially beauty, nature, and fine
Uh-huh.
design.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the convergence of neuroscience and design. And truly, it's changing the makeup and the future opportunities of our industry. The other key word is biophilia. Now, biophilic design is starting to become the darling of the design industry. And biophilia essentially means love of nature. And biophilic design is bringing in nature and representations of nature into the home to satisfy the fundamental inherited need we have for nature. We are nature, and our evolutionary inheritance, we were born in nature as a species. And so we
Right.
fundamentally need it. Now, what's really interesting about this is that um, uh, science and medicine are probably 30 to 40 years ahead of our design industry in understanding our ability to improve health. There's a great quote, two quotes I'll give you. There's a
Okay.
great quote out of the Mayo Clinic, the Center for Innovation at the Mayo Clinic. Dr. Douglas Wood says the future of medicine is in the home. Now, that in itself is pretty powerful because the home prevents and the home cures. The other key quote has been bandied around now a little bit. I've been using it for 8 or 9 years, and that's a quote from the head of environmental medicine at the University of Texas, Dr. Claudia Miller. And she says architects and designers have a greater ability to improve public health than medical professionals.
I love this.
That
I
is
love when you've talked about this. This is fabulous.
it's game changing for our industry. Once we all begin to internalize
Hmm.
that knowledge that science has, it changes the value proposition for interior designers. Um,
Yes.
Now, just a couple of other quick things. The other science and design also entails studies at universities. One of the things I hear back from interior designers that I present to is, I wish I had known this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that gave me the idea that, well, why don't we start talking to designers earlier in their career? So we've started up a university program. And so in the last several months, we've lectured to Michigan State University, to Savannah College of Art and Design, Western Carolina University. Last week, I just signed up Syracuse University and Thomas Jefferson University in Philly for lectures in the fall. And I bring this up because we want to talk to as many students as we can. So if any of your watchers or viewers are connected to schools, give me a shout out.
Yes. Well, back to our 60 plus audience here that we're talking to. How do our brains process beauty different as we age? What is the implications and how does it affect our homes?
Well, we have a lifetime of beauty experiences that have shaped the way we view beauty at older ages. It's an inherited trait, frankly, from our earlier years, and it's important to capture uh, from our past many of those beauty experiences that we've enjoyed, and actually amplify them if we can. It's funny. Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect, is famous
Hmm.
for this quote: "The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes." And I love that phrase because it's really an accumulation of beauty experience that enriches us as we age. It's almost like, I don't know, like bringing treasured memories
Yeah.
future. And it is a lot of that. You see, spaces, we need spaces that resonate with personal meaning wherever we can get it. Um, Now, for at any age, frankly, but especially at the older age, the idea of beauty is not just in visual. Beauty is in not just in the eye of the beholder, but as Dr. Anjan Chatterjee at the University of Pennsylvania says, he's a noted neuroscientist. Beauty is in the brain of the beholder, because the eye is merely a tool of the brain.
Mhm.
The brain controls everything. And we see beauty not just in visual images, but we see beauty in aesthetic experiences like touch, like smell, the touch of a soft texture. That's what's particularly important as we age. And the idea of touch, there's a great quote from Sarah Robinson, architect in Italy, and she says, "We cannot touch without being touched in return."
That's
And
a
I
good point.
the impact of the environment on our bodies and minds is especially important as we age. We do tend to slow down, so we need greater stimulation from the environment that we're in at any particular time. Specifically, though, to your question, we want color contrast in our homes as we age. We want rounded corners. We want fluidity and movement. Um, and especially because of I don't know, the bringing some of our past into our future, we want heirlooms and meaningful art experience to surround ourselves. That helps create beauty.
Well, that was kind of the next question is what sensory experiences like light and sound becomes important in invoking a sense of beauty and comfort as we get older.
Yeah, it's important to understand first, though, that beauty is not just, and the reason we can talk this way about what applies to the older generation is that beauty is not just an emotional experience, but it's a physical experience. We now know that something physical happens in our bodies and minds when we see something we perceive to be beautiful. Uh,
Hmm.
and we're lucky that in the design industry, this is what's game changing. The fact that we can measure the impact of beauty, the beauty that a designer creates, that with scanning technology and the ability to quantify, a portion of our brain lights up when we see something to be beautiful, and so
Hmm.
that's an exciting opportunity for us. And as in terms of sensory, experiences, it's visual is so important. 95% of what we take in is visual, and it's I don't know, it's just um, we take in 11 million bits of information per second, but the brain only acts on 40 or 50 of them. As we get older, we're less inclined to survive stress. So there's a greater, I don't know, there's a greater emphasis on stimulating our minds and bodies with beauty as we get older.
Well, that goes then kind of into, like visual harmony or disorder in our environment and how it can affects us cognitively and emotionally
Hmm.
as later in life. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Let's say the room is a disarray or a mess, nothing's in order, that would have to impair.
Clutter really drains our focus. It really does. It's very unhealthy. It leads to cognitive stagnation and cognitive deterioration, and that's been measured. And it's important that order restores our well-being. In science, there's something in the study of neuroaesthetics. There's this concept called organized complexity, and especially important at an older age. At the age of 8, we don't know what harmony is, but at the age of 70 and 80, we've learned the geometries that provide pleasure. And organized complexity is really important. We need complex environments, but they need to be in order. And one of the reasons is that our brain is a perfect example of organized complexity. We consider a straight line to be pretty boring. It doesn't have interest to us until we give it movement. And that's just an elementary kind of example of this idea of the need for organized complexity. The organized complexity, for instance, of nature is pleasing and calming to the brain. And so as we age, it's even more important to surround ourselves with the natural beauty of organic structures and imagery.
Making notes. I
Oh,
do. I do a newsletter after my kind of a recap, and so I'm always taking down notes. In your experience, what design elements effectively invoke a sense of meaning, joy, and vitality for older adults, and how can we incorporate that more in our lives, in our living spaces?
what design elements?
Yes.
You know, um, Design elements like color contrast and an abundance of natural light. Color intensity is important. And, design elements like a sense of safety and security are
Mm-hmm.
important. Cradle-like environments. And in biophilic design, there's a concept called prospect and refuge. As a species, we want to feel safe and secure. And prospect and refuge is kind of like that cradling element where the room or the environment protects us and surrounds us and keeps us safe and warm. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's particularly important. Those are just a couple of the design elements that, I can think of now. But I mentioned that visual is important, but tactile comfort is also
Mm-hmm.
extremely important. Soft materials, textures to create emotional security, and sensory nostalgia, if you will. I like that phrase. I read it a while ago. Sensory nostalgia. Um, but surrounding yourself with patterns and fractal imagery
Mm-hmm.
is particularly important. Uh, One of my faculty members in our certification program, Professor Richard Taylor, is a specialist in fractal fluency and fractal beauty. And he's essentially talking about there's a range of organized complexity and fractal patterning that is good and then very bad. He considers it, he calls it a D value, and the D value runs from 1 to 2. So a straight line would have a fractal intensity value of 1, but an oversaturated Jackson Pollock painting would have a D value of maybe 1.9 to 2. And
Uh-huh.
he has been able to measure that the value of fractal intensity is best at 1.3 to 1.7, the middle ground. And so what we want is a visual cohesion, a visual harmony in our patterning and fractal environments that we live with. The other thing that's interesting, Laurie, is that he has been able to measure that the use of fractal patterns reduces stress by up to 60%. Now think of what that means if we could be using fractal patterning in our homes. Think of how much of the hundreds of millions of dollars we would save in pharmaceutical expenses if we
Absolutely.
learn to exist with fractal patterning.
Okay, for those that may not be in the design industry, explain fractal.
Okay, fractals are geometric images. We're
Mm-hmm.
by them, and they're prevalent in nature. Fractal patterns are essentially geometric images that are consistent and similar in shape and form, but ascend or descend in scale. So a fractal example would be a fern. The little nodule at the end of a fern is similar and consistent with all the other nodules, but at the base they're larger and there are more of them. So that's an example of fractal patterning.
Okay. Uh, uh, is there what? Well, could you share where you see spaces that demonstrate these principles beautifully?
Yeah, yeah. I thought about that, and there are. It's interesting because some of your major corporations and major uh, uh, bits and pieces of architecture are using and employing these patterns and this sense of neuroaesthetics. One of the best examples, and I haven't been there yet, but I have to get there, is La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona.
Oh, in Barcelona?
Yeah, Gaudi's treasure that he started in 1880 and will hopefully be finished in 2026. Art galleries and museums. And it's interesting because a couple of years ago, the Medical Association authorized doctors to begin prescribing trips to art galleries and museums instead of giving the patient a bottle of Xanax. It's amazing because we now know the impact and benefit of beauty, art, and nature. Other examples would be we're starting to build hospitals around the world using biophilic design. There's a hospital in Singapore called Kutek Puat Hospital. It is 100% biophilic design.
I have seen pictures of that.
Yes, yes. And there's Maggie Center at St. James University in England, 100% biophilic design. Now, an interesting point to this is that if hospitals are using biophilic design to improve the health of their patients, shouldn't we as designers be using biophilic design to improve the health of our patients?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, the other test
Um,
of this, Lori, is that your major corporations are using neuroaesthetics and biophilia in their headquarters. Amazon has 390 different species of plant life in their headquarters.
yes.
Apple just spent $5 billion on on their new headquarters in Cupertino, California. Every workstation has access to natural sunlight and greenery, and they're
That's
doing it
great.
because it improves productivity, creativity, and for them, it improves profitability.
Mhm. When you talk about the biophiliac, it's real florals, flowers, rather than artificial. Do you see anything with artificial affecting that, helping that at all?
Yeah, it does. It's the word for it is biomimicry, and
Mm-hmm.
whether it's real nature and natural elements in your home, and it doesn't have to be greenery. It can be the view out the window of a garden,
Right.
sitting on a window seat, reading a book, sipping a glass of Chardonnay, and occasionally looking out at the expanse of the world around you into nature. That's a biophilic design element uh,
Yes.
that the biophilic specialists talk about all the time. It's why, for instance, Laurie, that when we go into a restaurant and nobody's in the restaurant, do we take the table in the middle of the room? No, we take the table against the wall. We want our backs protected with a view to the rest of the room. These are all innate, inherited, and coded in our DNA, and that's what's so fascinating now, to have interior design founded in science.
Yes, that's great. Um, are there three people that you would recommend that maybe we should follow that share this same concept?
Well, some of the people I work with and some of the people I've been following, certainly, I would start with Don Ruggles. Don, the architect, is essentially spending more time helping into the discipline of architecture
Mm-hmm.
real these tall plate glass window buildings are unhealthy for us. And so he's trying to help that industry, and he's written a book called Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture. And I heartily recommend people start their education with that book. I would also say Susan Magsamen. She's the executive director at the International Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins University. And she's also the author of the book, Your Brain on Art, an excellent, excellent read for everyone listening.
Okay.
Say, I don't know, I would say Dr. Anjan Chatterjee out of the University of Pennsylvania. Connect with him on LinkedIn. He's very, he does a lot of posting on LinkedIn, and he's the author of The Aesthetic Brain, and which is a deeper read, but still terrific.
Okay, very good. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share?
In thinking about this, for this, one of the things I realized was that this sense of treasured memories that really do supply an aesthetic beauty in our lives today. So I know we touched on it, but I think it's really important to surround yourself with who we have been as people. To understand the human today, we need to understand who we have been as a species. And I think that applies as directly to our lives today. As we age, let's celebrate the memories and the aesthetic beauty of those memories as we get older.
Good point. Good point. Um, so, for let's say interior designers that are listening or may watch the replay, how does the science and design certification help? And or those who are 60 plus, what can they learn?
Well, they'll learn a lot. The designers that have taken the certification program are profuse in essentially beginning to include it in the way they run their business and the way they
Hmm.
market themselves. Designers will learn about the science that supports their ability to improve health through beauty. They'll learn new design elements like some of the ones I just mentioned, like the window
Right.
seat, you out the window. And they'll learn that this whole subject is changing the value proposition of our industry. We are an alternative health resource. The you know They'll learn that the faculty members are specialists in neuroscience, biophilia, and neuroaesthetics, but they're taught in a way that the designer can understand and use, very driven towards implementation. They'll learn about harmony, homeostasis, and evolutionary inheritance. The leader today in biophilic design is Bill Browning and his partner, Katie Ryan, out of the Terrapin Bright Green consulting firm. They'll learn about fractal patterning. And the last module, which is really important, is on marketing and messaging. One of the things that I've heard often and early was that, I love having the knowledge, but I need to learn how to talk about it. I need to learn how to put it into my website. So
Hmm.
all of it covered in the last module of the event, of the certification program. Just go to scienceanddesign.com, click on certification, and that'll lead you into more information on the program.
Okay. And how do we get in touch with you, Mike?
Mike at scienceanddesign.com. You can
Mike at
please,
Science and Design.
let me tell you, I love the subject. I'm passionate about it. I see opportunity for our industry and for designers. We do regular monthly webinars. We're having a huge event in October, market October 24th. Go to my website to learn more about it. It's called When Design Heals. It's a full day symposium. Let's keep this momentum going. And Lori, this has been a pleasure. I hope I didn't talk too
Uh,
much.
oh, not at all. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And be sure and are you a member of our private Facebook group called the Third Phase?
I think I just joined a week or so ago. So yes.
Okay, please do. It's under the number three, the third phase. And if anyone has any more questions or anything, and I do have a newsletter that will go out on Saturday morning about what we've talked about and everything. And so I'd love everyone to sign up for that as well. But be sure and join my private, free but powerful Facebook group called the Third Phase. So, Mike, we look forward to seeing you in that private group.
All right. Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.